Hey Top Senders, how's it going? Rising Fist has officially been announced, and we've actually had some scans handed our way. Now, I've had a quick glance over them, and I can see some promise, so yeah, let's actually just go through these cards and actually have a gander at what we really think of them. Now, I'm going to actually start at the bottom of the list for once, mostly because we've been shown Strong Energy, a new stadium called Fighting Stadium, and Karina, a new supporter. Knowing what Strong Energy and Fighting Stadium do can actually change your opinion on some of the actual Pokemon in this set, so I thought I'd cover those first. So first, actually, let's start with Karina. She's a supporter. You can search your deck for one fighting Pokemon and an item card, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Now, this in itself isn't too bad. It's a case of it's day-based search for fighting Pokemon without time to put a card back into your deck, which in itself is good. You just go, oh, here's my fighting Pokemon. The fact that you get an item card with it, she's effectively turned around and said, well, I want to be Bebe and I want to be Skylar at the same time. Now, of course, it is only for fighting Pokemon, but this is the fighting Pokemon set, so that's to be expected. The whole fact that you can grab that item, it's going to mean a lot. It means that you could effectively, say you have two basics on the bench, you can play Karina, grab one of the evolutions, grab an Evo Soda. Oh, I've got two stage 1s. You can't really say fairer than that, and that's just one quick idea, just off the top of my head. It's possible that you could still actually run a card like, if you still run Catcher, grab a Catcher. In fact, without Catcher's errata, this would have been absolutely amazing. But right now it's a way of grabbing a Pokemon and grabbing a utility, so as far as supporters go, pretty powerful. I'd be surprised if people didn't just play it for the item grab. But the fact that you can grab a Pokemon and an item is pretty helpful. Next up we have Fighting Stadium. As the name implies, it's a trainer stadium. Each player's fighting Pokemon can do 20 extra damage to the opponent's active Pokemon X. So, this is basically fighting Pokemon, they gain a bit of a power increase against Pokemon X. It's actually nice to see. It doesn't actually state that your non-X fighting Pokemon gain the boost, so you can still use it with Lucario X and Mega Lucario X. But it does give you a little extra edge. Anything that's weak to fighting already, so say if Darkrai is still prevalent in your area, which I don't think it is that prevalent anymore, but it's still a thing. Well, now it's a case of, well, you're an X, here's an extra 40 because you're weak to me. And really that is the long and short of this card. It's basically a case of it's extra damage. Speaking about extra damage, we also have been shown Strong Energy. We finally know what this bad boy does. And I'm glad to say that I was along the right lines with thinking it could be a Special Dark remake, because that's effectively what it is. Special Darkness Energy used to be a type of special energy that, well, gave dark energy to whatever it was attached to. And if it was attached to a dark Pokemon, that dark Pokemon's attacks would do an extra 10 damage to the active. Strong Energy is a bit more strict on how it works, but it delivers more power. Strong Energy can only be attached to a fighting type Pokemon. While it's attached to a fighting type Pokemon, it provides fighting type energy, and that Pokemon's attacks do an extra 20 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. So, put simply, it's a lot stricter than Special Dark, but it does twice as much increase. Another thing to note is, a card like Strong Energy can stack. So, 1 Strong Energy is plus 20, 2 Strong Energy is plus 40. and you can run up to 4 of it. So you can afford to put 2 on 2 separate Pokemon just for that increase. Unlike Fighting Stadium, it doesn't state active Pokemon X, it's just active Pokemon, so it's an extra 20 no matter what, as long as it's on a Fighting type Pokemon. Then again, it can only be attached to a Fighting type Pokemon. If you were trying to attach it to something else, it drops off. With the support of the trainer and the energy out of the way, let's actually now look at the Pokemon in the set. And first we're going to start off with Lucario X. He's the set's poster boy. It'd be wrong to start with anyone else. Lucario X is the first X we've seen with 3 attacks. For 1 fighting energy, you can use Scud Jab. 30 damage, it's not affected by resistance. Now, let me make it clear, some Pokemon having the isn't affected by resistance thing tacked onto their attacks, some of them it's kind of pointless. If you ever see it on a grass type Pokemon, then you know it's pointless, nothing resists grass. Fighting, on the other hand, it can make use of the fact that it's ignoring resistance. It's a case of there are Pokemon out there that do resist fighting. Anything that gets its typing based on its flying type, so cards like Yveltal, they resist fighting. Well, no, there's no resistance on this one. And it's 1 to 30. 1 to 30 isn't bad. If you're against an X, then throw down Fighting Stadium, and you're doing 50 for 1. If that 1 happens to be strong energy, that's 70 damage for 1 energy. It's not a huge investment, and 70 damage for 1 energy it's never bad. We used to look at Pokemon that did 1 for 40 as being like some of the best cards for a pre-release format, and now we've got something that can effectively turn around and say, here's 1 energy, here's 70 damage to your X. Quite happy with that. Next, for 2 fighting energy, we have Screw Blow. Delivers 60 damage. You may draw cards from your deck until you have 6 cards in hand. So it's basically return with damage output. Once again, same story as with Scud Jab. If you've got the strong energy, if you've got the Fighting Stadium, to an X that's 100 damage for 2. A non-X, you're still doing 80 damage if you've got a strong energy. The numbers are really working in Lucario X's favour, and the ability to replenish your hand, it means that you can afford to actually make some big earlier investment. With the fact that you're replenishing your hand, you're not really going to be punished for going, here's my hand, slap it onto the board early game. Also, I've got no options. Screw Blow, draw until I've got 6 cards in hand. I now have options. It's a very nice thing to have. And now we come to Lucario X's most lackluster attack. For 3 fighting energy, Somersault High. Now, I'm guessing that Somersault High is basically a case of, this is what you're going to use to finish stuff off. Put the 3rd energy on, here's 100 damage, knock you out. Here's 100 damage, knock you out. It's basically they want to give him a finishing move. And to be honest, yeah, I can understand giving him a finishing move. It's going to be helpful. It's going to actually have a way of not just doing damage, but actually knocking things out. So, yeah, okay. But 3 energy for 100, 140 if you've got the combination I've mentioned 100 times before. You know, you got strong energy, you got the Fighting Stadium. It's 140 for 3 energy. If this attack had just a little something extra added onto it, even if it was just a case of heal 10 hit point, heal 10 damage from Lucario or something, I don't know, just it feels like compared to the 2 attacks that come before it, this is where you're actually like losing efficiency. Other points worth noting is Lucario X, obviously being an X, is basic, 180 hit points, 2 times weakness to Psychic, and a retreat cost of 2. So not as fast as we'd like him to be, but I think his attacks more than make up for it. Next up we have Mega Lucario X. It Mega Evolves from Lucario X. When you Mega Evolve, end your turn. Standard rule. has a standard X rule, once again, retreat cost of 2, 2 times weakness of psychic, 220 hit points, and for 3 fighting energy you can use the set's signature move, Rising Fist. 140 damage, discard 1 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this in itself I have a lot of respect for. 140 damage, if you're against an X, strong energy, fighting stadium, and it's just 1 strong energy, that's all you need to get this off. It's 180 damage. Strong energy, fighting stadium, rising fist, 180 damage, you're knocking out X's. It's a 3 energy investment, it's not exactly a cheap attack, but to be honest, with the Scud Jab, the Screw Blow underneath it, you can get into this. The fact that it's effectively a stage 1 that says one shot other X's, I quite like it for that. The discard 1 energy, well, it's a case of, do I actually knock out what's in front of me? No? Okay, well, I'm going to hinder your setup then. I'm going to set you back a bit. And I live for moves like that. I live for the ability to turn around and say, no, I'm going to stop you actually setting up and killing me. I am going to hurt your field. The fact that it's a Mega, that you have to lose that turn, I'm still not sure about how that would actually affect this card's playability. I like the idea of thinking that he could overcome this triple fighting cost and that he could actually make up for the Mega Evolution clause, but it's a lot going against him. When he's got Mega Evolution and an attack cost of 3 fighting energy, when fighting has no acceleration, it is a case of, will people play with these hindrances? I mean, to be honest, I'm looking at the Lucario X and the Mega Lucario, and I actually like them. Mega Lucario is up there with Mega Kangaskhan for me. It's probably one of the best X's it's probably one of the best Megas we've got. It doesn't ask for 5 energy, and it's not saying, oh, I'm going to do 300 damage. It's asking for 3 and it's saying I can knock stuff out with some simple setup. I'll be honest, I think I'm so enamoured with this card just because it's turning around and saying, I reward a bit of setup. You get me out, you load me up, and I will actually be able to do the damage. And I like that. I really do. But I'm going to stop gushing for now. Let's actually move on to the other cards in the set. We've got 3 more to get through. One of which is just a stage 1 for... One of which is just a basic for a stage 1 that's been revealed. So first, we'll keep up with the X's. And I'll be honest, this is a card in the set that's upset me a little bit. Hawlucha X. Now, I'm happy that we've got a Hawlucha X. I really am. I love Hawlucha. It's the fact that, it's the fact that, yeah, there's something about Luchadore that I've always liked. I'll be honest, my biggest fault with this card is the fact that Hawlucha X has 130 hit points. Why is he lumped in with the Pixies? Why is he down at the centre of the scale where basically an X Pokemon shouldn't be this weak unless he's fundamentally broken? I mean, nobody plays Mew X, nobody plays Celebi X. If we ever get Azelf, Uxie and Mesprit, they'll have 110 hit points too, and nobody will play them. The fact that Hawlucha X has come out and he's got 130 hit points, when his hit point stat isn't awful. His special defense stat is his worst stat, where it's 63. He's got a hit point stat of 74. It's the fact that I'm seeing 130 hit points on Hawlucha, and it's like, this isn't big enough for an X. Well, not for this type of X. If he was 140, I'd be a little less salty about it. 150, I don't think I could complain at 150 hit points for him. With all that said, let's actually just get onto the card itself. We actually have, obviously, he's an X, so he's a basic Pokemon. He has the ability Retribution. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon and is damaged by your opponent's attack, put 2 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon. It also has the attack Moonsault Stomp. For fighting double colorless, do 60 damage. You can do an extra 40 damage if there's a stadium in play. He's weak to Psychic and has a retreat cost of 1. Although Pokebeach would have you believe it's 2. You can see right there on the card it's a 1, but math. And okay, I'll be honest, fighting double colorless is probably a pretty good energy cost compared to a lot of other Pokemon that have been coming out recently, where a lot of free cost attacks tend to be 2 of a given colour and a colourless. The fact that this is fighting double colourless and it's potentially 100, it does make it slightly more playable. As I said before, the thing that makes Hawlucha unplayable in my eyes is the fact that he's an X with 130 hit points, so that is really going to go against him. And I think that's actually the one thing that really does ruin the card. With that though, let's move on to our final 2 cards. They're actually both part of the same line. We have a Pancham and a Pangoro. Pancham is a basic fighting Pokemon with 60 hit points and 2 attacks. The first attack, for a colourless, you can use Rowdy Evolution. If you have a dark Pokemon on your bench, search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from this Pokemon and place it on top of this Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Its second attack, for fighting double colourless, is Moxie. 30 damage. Obviously you're going to play Pancham just for its Ascension, just for Rowdy Evolution, just so you can actually say, here's my Pangoro. And to be honest, I think Pangoro is the real thing to focus on in this line, so let's give a quick look to him. He's a Stage 1 fighting type Pokemon with 100 hit points and the ability Skin of the Leader. While this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, its maximum HP is increased by 20 for each of your benched Pokemon. So, Stage 1, 100 hit points, not that good. Do you have a full bench? Yes, okay, but then you've got a Stage 1 with 200 hit points. You're effectively turning around and saying, I will take a turn or so to set this guy up, so I effectively have a 1 prize X. I don't think any of us are really complaining about this. It's a case of, if you have a Pangoro on your bench, so it gets knocked out, you bring him out, they go 4 on the bench. That's going to be 180 hit points. It's still a 1 prize X. But this is not really worth talking about unless he has a decent attack. So let's have a quick look. For 2 fighting and a colourless, you can use Crazy Knuckle, which does 80 damage. If this Pokemon is affected by a special condition, this attack does 40 more damage. Now, I'm going to be frank, double fighting colourless for 80 isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, especially on a Stage 1 that can have 200 hit points. We've still got a fighting stadium, so that's, if you're opposite an actual X, it's 100 damage. If you've got a strong energy attached, 120. So, effectively you don't actually need the additional 40. You can make that appear from other places. The one thing I don't like is the fact that the attack does state, if this Pokemon is affected by a status condition, do 40 extra. a status condition as a trigger is never a good thing. Effectively, you're either costing yourself health on a coin toss if you're burned, tossing a coin to attack if you're confused, and if you're paralyzed or asleep, then you can't attack. So the game has 5 statuses, one of which turns around and says you might be able to attack, if not you're going to smack yourself in the face for 30, and 2 which say you're going to be taking damage, you're going to be basically taking those extra hit points you have and wasting them. So overall, Pangoro, 1 prize X that can turn around and deliver 120 if you go from other sources. I'd say it's kind of worth it. I wouldn't be surprised if people do test this out, but the actual boost on his attack, not really worth it in my opinion. Not when you can get that 40 damage from elsewhere. So, with all that said, what do you guys think about Rising Fist and the cards in it? As always, got a comment section down below. I'd love to see you guys there. Until next time, I've been Writer Joey. You guys are top percent. Peace out.